they are not the complicated. But we want you to be aware of how these basic functions work as a groundwork, so that when we go to the sort of complicated functions, we have a firm foundation. So basically, this exercise was simple. You were just supposed to type in this information. I gave you these few lines, but you'd find when you're working in Excel, normally you have got many lines. You could have like 1,000 plus, or even more. And why we want Excel, it allows us to easily manipulate whichever way, add up, sort, and so on. It allows us to do that. So today, what I want to just focus on initially is to introduce, you may be aware of these functions, but I'm just going to present them as if you don't know, for completeness. So I think yesterday, of course, we talked about a cell, which we said is just a combination of this letter and this number. Like this cell, the cell address will be A1, which you can see up there. So if we say cell A2, we're just talking of the letter up here, which is the column letter, and the row letter. That's what makes a cell address or a cell reference, so to say. So we have got these columns A, B, C up to F. Starting with the date. Normally we can have the date typed this way. This is what I gave you. But you see, if you have the date typed this way, one is now to guess and think, is this January 3 or is this March 1? Yeah. So for the date, normally would prefer that it be typed in a different way, because when you try to format this into a meaningful date, which we normally do by, you can just select all the dates there. If it is a large column, you can just select, let's say you've got so many details. Instead of just coming here and selecting, you can just click up there. Right then, if you were to right click and say format cells so as to change the date format, then just come there and try to probably select something like, let's say something like this, because it will be much clearer when you say, okay, you could find with this date which I gave you, it doesn't change. So the date normally, this is March. So we could prefer it typed like 03 /01 for 1 March. Then the year, which in this case would be 25. So you'd find with this now, if we were to right click and say format cells, we can now change how this date looks, depending with what we want. So if I were to do that, you can see it can be changed to that, right? It can be changed. So this date of ours, all of our dates, let's just type them that way. Even this one is the same dates. So let's just type it the same way. And this one was 7. So I'm starting with the month. I'm starting with the month, followed by the day, then followed by the year. So I could copy this formula here, right? This format, so to say. You could find I've got that format, and I could just come here and copy the same formatting. So the date has to be typed the way I typed. In this case, I'm starting with the month, the day, and the year. That allows you to manipulate this date in any format that you want it presented. You can have it presented whichever way. Normally, in Zimbabwe, we start with the day. So normally myself, I prefer this way. I prefer because it becomes clearer. If I were to change the month there, it would be easy for me just to say that it's April. Instead of using 4, right, I could just see that. So this is how you manipulate date. You can do it whichever way you want, as long as it makes your data more presentable. then of course this information has to be typed in. There is nothing we can do unless if we are getting the data from elsewhere, we are importing that information. Otherwise, we just have to type as you did. The same goes with this, the number of items, even the pricing. Right? So on the pricing, depending with the currency, in this case, we said use the euro, you can use any other currency. So you just select the currency that you want to use. This is simple, straightforward, and to be familiar with that. So that's the currency. The region has to be typed in. Then here you have to use a formula. You can either type in, but as you did, you used a formula to calculate. This is very good. So if you had large information, you would just have your formula there, then you can just copy it and paste it on the rest of the data. Automatically, the system will pick up that formula and multiply these two to give you a total. So this is basic, right? This is basic. So here you can put, I saw that you put grids, but the grids do not have to because here we do not have any information. So we do not necessarily need to have grids out there because it would be a nightmare when you try to print now with all these other grids, you would find it may present a challenge. So basically, your grids, just select the area that you want covered with the grids. In this case, we just want that area. You select it, then you just put your grids. So you have got the choice of putting grids. You have got the choice of inserting a table. You can insert a table. You select this data. You just come up there. Then you insert a table. It will select the whole area like what it has done there. Then you just click on OK. When you do that, it will insert a table. And this table, you can format it. Up here, you can format it like if you want this color, you can. If you want to change the table, there are even more options down here. You can select whatever format that you want to use. It will be changed to that. So you have got the option of putting the grids. You've got the option of inserting a table. What a table does now, it puts these things which allows you to filter and so on. We're going to talk about filtering. This is basic for you just to manipulate and present your information. Now, so I'm just going to introduce some basic functions. We studied on them yesterday, but I'm just going to introduce them again. So for summing up, yourself, I saw you added one item by one item, which is still okay, because at the end of the day, we achieve the same result. But you'd find when you have probably, let's say you've got 500 items, it will be difficult to add them up one by one like this. The chances of making a mistake are very high. So what Excel does, it gives you the sum to auto sum. So if you do your auto sum, the system will automatically add up. So it will add up. So you can do your auto sum, which is up here. You can use the function tab. So if you were to use the function tab, it will also do the same job. It will just add up. So when you click on the function, you have to select. Let me just remove that total. So you do not have a total there. So if you were to click on the function, you then have to select the function that you want. So normally you will just use, so here you can just probably let's save O, right? You will then select your sum, right? So functions, yes, it's okay. You can type it in or you just use the auto sum, then it ends up, right? Under that, you can also have some functions like average. So if you were to come, you will still use your functions there to have your average. Let me see if I can pick it automatically. Right. So let me see. My average, where is it? Right. Just disappeared some of my formulas. All right. So is it under statistical? Let me see. So you've got your average. So these are you would find you've got many functions, but there are some basic functions like you're adding up, your average, you're probably finding the maximum. So yeah, just picking up that, and once you do that, then it calculates. It automatically calculates that. You could find it will pick. Then you just have to say okay. Then it will average. In other words, if you've got lots of data, it does add up and does the average. So these are functions that you can pick. But as you can see, these functions, they are a number, there are a number of them. In other words, you could find just like this average is under statistical, but mostly we use in business, would be interested probably in financial. Uh, then you calculate like your ARR, but the basic ones, mostly they are under date, they are under math, they are under statistical. In accounting, in financial, mostly what we are interested in be like your auto sum. You can pick your average, you can pick your max here, right? Your max meaning to say which is the maximum that we have. Your mean meaning to say which is the minimum. So it will pick that, right? We're saying you've got lots of data and you just want to pick that count numbers, how many are these items, but normally Excel will guide you through this numbering up here. So these are like your basic, but there are as many functions as there are. There are many functions that you can use. So here what we want is the total. Let's just say up there. Right. Then the other thing that we want to introduce you to is adding up and everything. I think you are familiar with that. It's probably conditional formatting. Now, what conditional formatting does is you just want to highlight, right? Okay, here we have got about 5 items, which is code. So easily we can pick which has got the highest value, which has got the lowest value. But if we had about 500 lines or even more, you would find doing that is possible, but at times it's tough. So conditional formatting will allow you to just do that. So you could just select this column, come to conditional formatting, then you highlight cells like you are putting a rule. Say highlight cells to rules. Then you could actually say greater than, less than, between, equal to. Right. So you select like let's say greater than. So if I wanted, I could say, okay, I want to see amounts which are greater than 5,000. So if I were to put 5,000, what conditional formatting would do is to highlight those items. So it will highlight, I just have to select the color. It will pick the color by default. I can select any color. So when I say okay, you could find it then highlights those items, because in this case, I said more than 5,000. So it will pick those items, right? I can then sort using that. Okay. So this is your option of formatting. It helps when you have got large data. In this case, we do not have much information, so it's much easier for us to just look. So instead of probably doing you just select there, then you select your conditional formatting. So you can either use highlight cells rules or top bottom. You can say 10% off. So you're simply selecting a row, then the system will do that. So if I wanted to say less than, probably I would say less than 4,000. Then it will pick those items. This is your conditional formatting. It's not complicated. It's not that only that it helps you in a way to sort information when you've got probably large amounts of information. Then you've got data validation. Let's say somebody is getting some information and you want them to enter specific information, right? So you could do what we term data validation. Let's say I've got this column on regions. and I want certain regions only to be entered. I want to restrict this person to enter particular regions. Of course, this person has got a worksheet which they are supposed to capture into the system. But for some reasons, I just want to control that and make sure that they do not put any other, like other regions, in other regions besides the north and the south. So if I were to do that, I could just select these cells without the information. Okay, in this case, I've got the information, but even without the information, I could just select the cell, like the cells which are origins. I could just select them. Then I could come to data there. Then I could come to data validation, then data validation. Then I could come then to allow, then I could come to lists. Then under source, because I want north and south only to be entered, I could then just type north, then comma, south. Right? Okay. What it means is that when you try to type, when you say north, it will allow you to enter north, right? Depending on the information that you are typing. But if you try to type east, you find it will give you an error and say this value doesn't match the data validation restrictions defined for this cell. So you can try to retry, right? Then it will give you the same error again. So, but south you can enter because we set up that. So this normally happens when you are probably for junior people and they're capturing certain information and you want them to put certain information in a particular cell, in a particular column. You can just use your data validation to control that and make sure that they do not make errors by entering some other information. Right. So if you wanted here to enter certain numbers, you could just put that validation. So it's more like a restriction. Right. Then we've got what we term absolute cells and relative cells. Right. What that means is so we've got absolute reference and relative reference. We've got this formula here. Right. If I had, let's say, if I had another 10 there and probably, let's say, I've got another 100 there. Okay. Let me just put 100 there. Right. If I were to come here and copy this, let's say I just come there and copy this. I want to copy this as a formula. Come to J and then paste. What I'm pasting there, the formula. So in this case, I'm right clicking, then I'm clicking on paste. You would find, all right, okay. So what it did, so my 10, let my 10 come here and let my 100 come there. Then, okay, I want to remove this. All right, okay, fine. What happened there? Not. Right, okay. What I wanted to demonstrate was by having this, by copying this formula here under F and pasting it under J, what will happen is it will automatically pick from what you have. Okay, it's because I've got this other formula column there. What it will do is it will automatically pick. We have 12 times this to give us that, but in between you've got this column. That's why it was refusing. So it will do the same. It will just pick that, right, and calculate the formula. This is what we could term a relative reference. But if we had fixed this, for some reasons, we may say, okay, we don't want this to change. In other words, we may not want this column here, this column to change. When we do our formula, this formula, we do not want it to change this. So we could just put a dollar sign there. We just come there, put a dollar sign, put a dollar sign like that. Right. So what this does is, if I were to copy this, you could find it will reference to this. Was this part won't change. So that's your absolute. normally you are doing this when you are dealing probably with data that is sort of fixed and they don't want that formula to be changed or to change. So you would just fix it this way. You know very well when they copy down, it's copied as it is. Right? As you can see here, when I copied it, it's just multiplying, but this part is not changing. This part is not changing because I've put those dollar signs. But mostly what we simply use is the basic multiplication that we normally have. So these are your basic. Let me just then the other thing that you may want to know is creation of graphs. Right? The creation of graphs is simple because you can see this information is in tabular form or a table form, so to say. It's very much clear, but you may want to present the information in a graphic way. So you could find the date, you've got the product there, and you've got the region, you've got the total sales. That's what we may be interested if we were to do a table. So we will just probably have the date there, have the product there, right? Have the product there, and probably have the region. We also want to be interested in the region. You have the region there, and probably have the total sales. So here we're just copying that, and we have to paste that as letters. So we have we just put up that date. We have the product, right? We have the region, and we have the amount. Okay, total sales. So let's just say total sales, right? So our total sales are in figures. So if wanted, we could sort of insert a graph. So normally what you do is you just select the data that you have. Then you come to insert, then you can insert any type of graph that you want. Right? So this is what will happen now. You would find to give you this. You can have it in here, or you can move this. You can move this to a separate right chart type, set as that. You can move this to another worksheet so that you can manipulate it properly. But okay, let's see what we have here. Let me just enlarge here. All right. Okay, I want to enlarge this. So you could find here, it can be like this. Total sales, so it will show notes for those, and those were the figures. So you can format this. This can be formatted in many ways. You can format this. You can change the design. So you will change design up there. You have got format up there. So when you click format, you can change the colors and everything. You can select the chart design. Like in this case, I could select that. See what it does? It then puts up that I could select this. So it will add up. See, normally you'd find when you are doing sorry? Are you not seeing anything? Sorry? Andinayo Msonzo. Ukwanza nkandira message boza.
You may continue, sorry. Nanangweta client.
All right. Oh yes. Okay, sorry. All right. So so I was saying, all right, you can format the chart can be formatted whichever way. There are many options of even types of charts. So I mean, this is something that you can play around with. So you can even change the chart type. So this one is, you can put it as a pie chart. So these are the types that we have. You can put them as bars. So you have just to use the best chart type that will be easy, because this is meant to be easy for the people who are going to be using the information. So you can have a pie chart, which you can also change the way it looks. You see. Basically, this is for information. Yeah. Myself, I prefer the bars, these ones. Normally the columns, I prefer the columns like this. They are easy for me to see. Right. Of course, you actually have to select the type that is more appropriate for you. You see? So this is about inserting the charts. Somebody may say, okay, fine, the tabular information is okay, but can you put up the chart for me? You would just do that, select the information. So normally, instead of, you could select all this information, but if you were to select this, normally you would find there's some information which is there, but which may not be relevant, or which may not make your graph or your chart more presentable. Like in this case, you could have that. Okay, still it's okay. It will show you the date, the product, the unit price, and so on. So you will have to put a legend. So you may have to select. Let's have this, right, and then you probably put a legend so that people know what each item represent. Right. So would select. Let me select which one do I want to select. Which one do I normally work with? Probably let's have. Let me see this one. Right. See. So you would actually let's try to format this and all right. Okay. Data selection, chart type, and so on. Right. Chart design. Right. Select, change chart type, move chart. Right. Let's see the elements there. So we may want to data labels. We may want to put should we put table labels with legends? We want legends there, right? Okay, it shows total sales. Okay, so you find this bar is just selecting it once. So normally, instead of just selecting everything like that, you could select the important columns, because one normally just wants to see like the total sales probably by region. So you could leave out the unit price and like the units and the unit price, select your date, product, region, and the total. Then from there, you can insert your chart. So see, I mean, it's basic, it's something which is not complicated, but it helps normally because one wants to see how the information is in a graphic way. The other thing that you can use is filtering. Filtering, just like your conditional formatting, because you'd find Excel what it does. It has got many functions, but some of them are sort of similar. So if you were to filter, you could just select, let's say we want to filter by region. You could select this region, right? Then you come to this, then you filter, right? So in this case, I've removed, so I'm going to put back the filter. So when I put back the filter, I can now click on this arrow and then select how I want to filter. In this case, everything is being used, but let's say probably I just wanted to have north. I could just select then that and say, okay. So what it will do is it will show me information to do with north, because I just want to see the north region. So it will give me that north. This is helpful when probably, let's say you're dealing with lots of information, lots of regions, lots of branches, and you probably just want to analyze a particular branch. The same goes with, you would even use in terms of products. Instead of viewing, you could say, okay, probably I just want to view the laptop X. So it will show you about laptop X, whether you want to view by quantity or whichever way. So filtering helps in that way. You could use sort. Sort also works. Sort is whereby you are probably sorting. So sort we did it oldest to newest, newest to oldest. Besides this, you've got options of sorting, right? So sorting allows you again to do that. So this is basic, and it's just meant to allow you to manipulate your information and probably present it in a particular way. These formulas that we talked about are these, where you are simply multiplying information and adding up. So basically, I could say, yes, from what you typed, this is the other step that you could go before we probably look at the other advanced functions. I want to stop here. Then, as I said, we are taking a short break. Then we'll reconnect again, and then we'll look at, at a bit of more far advanced formulas. Then we just proceed gradually. We're going to be using this information again and just try to build on that uh, as we progress. Thank you.
So are we proceeding like now or Trumboita my minutes?
Yes, my minutes, if it was something that you want to do, I will send you a message on WhatsApp for you to join. Then you join, then we proceed accordingly.
Ah, okay.
All right.